Right now, of course, kids are back from school where they were taught reading, writing, and arithmetic. But kids, they are not being taught about how to develop emotional and social skills. And a new federal bill is trying to fix that by including those things in the actual curriculum. Now, the bill, it is named after Jessie Lewis. He was a young boy who was killed in his first grade classroom at Sandy Hook Elementary School. And I spoke to Jessie's mom, Scarlett, a short time ago. She is the founder of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Foundation. I want to talk about both your organization as well as this pending legislation. But the impetus obviously was born out of that tragedy I referenced. And all kids were amazing, but having spoken to Jessie's dad here, he was an amazing little kid. And he kept talking about, you had to see his smile. Could you, I know it's difficult, but talk about the words that he wrote on that chalkboard before he went to class that fateful day, and how, in many ways, they're the impetus here behind your organization.
Absolutely. It was actually the day that I went home to get his clothes for the funeral. It was on my way out that I noticed that he had written 3 words on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. And the 3 words were nurturing, healing, love. And of course, those 3 words are not in the vernacular of a 6-year-old. Yep. They were phonetically spelled because he was just in first grade and learning to write. But those 3 words are in the definition of compassion across all cultures. And when you actually break down the meaning of those 3 words, nurturing means loving kindness and gratitude, healing means forgiveness, and love is compassion in action. So when you practice those character traits, you are actually choosing love. And so that's how the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Foundation came to be. We thought about what is the absolute most important thing that really universally all humans want to do, and that's love and be loved.
And there's another word that people have associated with your late son, and that was run. As people may remember, on that day, in the midst of the shooting, when there was a break, he yelled run, and many people in law enforcement attribute that to kids running out the door upon his direction. Amazing for a 6-year-old to do this, and some lives probably saved as a reason.
Definitely. Jessie was instrumental in saving 9 of his friends' lives. And I talk about that because, of course, he showed incredible bravery and courage during the last few seconds of his life. And I liken that to the courage that we all have within us, the courage that I need to get up some days and go on and do what I have to do. And also, when we're talking about social emotional learning, which we will be talking about, it's the courage, not really the courage that we see in the movies or in the media, but the courage that it takes to be honest, the courage that it takes to be kind, the courage that it takes to be truthful. I really think that Jessie set the bar and example for that, for all of us. And of course, we all have that courage within us that he showed that day.
And before I talk about SCL and the organization, you had to have made a conscious decision after this. I think a lot of people wouldn't be blamed if they just wanted to shut it down and not talk about this anymore, proverbially shut the curtains and just try and keep it away. To be able to talk about this as much as you have, to lobby legislators to find solutions to try and prevent the next Sandy Hook, that's laudable, but it also must force reliving of pain. That must have been a conscious decision. Why did you come to the conclusion that you were going to be willing to share yourself with this issue when I'm sure a lot of other people just wanted to go away?
Well, I thought about how something like this could happen. And I thought about Adam Lanza, who was the perpetrator. And I thought about how much pain he must have been in to commit such a heinous crime, and how he got to that point. And just instinctively, I felt like he slipped through the cracks. And it turns out that that's really the case. And I just didn't want that to happen to another child. I feel like our children are born really perfect children of God, and they're not born mass murderers, but they are cultivated into becoming making bad choices from their environment. So I wanted to do something so that no other parent had to suffer like I do.
And that's where this proposed legislation was born out of. Explain SEL and also, if implemented and enacted, what it would look like in classrooms.
Well, social and emotional learning is really learning life skills. So in schools we teach reading, writing, and math. Social and emotional learning is teaching how to communicate with one another. It's teaching emotional intelligence. It's teaching moral awareness. It's teaching character values. And that's really, really important lessons that are taught at home. And there needs to be a consistent message across the board. And you know, there's over 30 years of scientific research that show that when kids are taught these life skills, that they are healthier both emotionally and physically, that they have less behavioral issues, that they have less stress, less anxiety, less addiction problems. They have higher graduation rates, less absenteeism. They're more likely to go on to college.
Ideally, at what ages in terms of schooling would it start, and how long would it go for?
Ideally, it would start immediately, as soon as a child enters nursery school, and then it would go through high school.
The thinking was, as you said, if you can identify or you can show children coping mechanisms too early on, maybe it'll prevent something where people look back after a tragedy and say, what opportunities were missed? That fills that gap, right?
I believe that if Adam Lanza had had access to social and emotional learning, that the tragedy wouldn't have happened. There was actually a report that came out from the Office of the Child Advocate, and they were the only institution given access to Adam Lanza's school records, to his mental health records. They interviewed everyone that came into contact with him, and they were given the mission of finding out what went wrong and making recommendations for the future. And so they made 3 recommendations in no order, really. One was gun safety, the other was more access to mental health, and the third one was social and emotional learning.
I know that both Senators Blumenthal and Murphy have been vocal proponents of this. Where does it stand right now, to your knowledge, in Washington? I know it's part of a broader bill, an education bill that's there, but does it seem to have bipartisan support so far?
We're hoping for bipartisan support, so I'm calling on that courage that Jessie showed, that we all have within us. This has nothing to do with being a Democrat or a Republican. This is a bill that's going to directly impact the health and well-being of our children. So I'm sure that we will get it and that it will be passed.
Well, sometimes when things make a lot of sense, they have a chance in Washington. Let's hope this is one of them, because it certainly, I think, fills both the need here, and it just makes a lot of sense.
It does. Social and emotional learning is the most powerful, proactive mental health initiative that's out there.
And we will be following and charting its progress through Washington, and we'll be talking to legislators, and this will certainly be among the questions we'll follow up on. Scarlett, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and also all the efforts with your organization as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
We'll be right back.